My name is Brett the Hitman Hart. I'm back in the future, in the 90s. Let's talk about this, the 90 era. Doesn't matter what, music, wrestling, all stuff, sitcoms, films. When you love the 90s, this will be your video. Let's do it. When you love the 90s, this will be your video. Lean back, enjoy, we discover the 90s today. Wrestling especially, but music, videos, all stuff what was there. When you were in there as a teenager, as a boy, as a girl, come lean back, enjoy this video. I tell you, this will be a great one. We go straight into it. So, I'm a kid from the 90s, you know. Here I'm on my chief seat, you know. I have a lot of stuff here and we have time, you know, enjoy it. I have my iced tea here and we will talk about the 90s, you know. Go back, remember it. Tell me also what you have discovered. Perhaps you will see now something where you say, wow, that I also had, or that was great, and this and that, you know. Take an iced tea, take a water, take a beer, whatever you want, you know. A beer only when you are 18, you know what I mean. But lean back, we have time and talk. So I'm very thirsty and we will start with the wrestling part. You see, there is a lot of wrestling. I've never told you this. I'm a big wrestling fan since the early days, you know. When you are into it, you will immediately know what I'm talking about, you know. So I'm a wrestling fan. Now, listen to that. Yes, that is nice now. So we have so much time, really. When can you discover the 90s again? You know, where do you see all that stuff? So here we have the time. Oh, nice one. And so it was in the 90s. We leaned back on our chief seats, we had a good drink and we had time. That is something what people from today, the teenagers from today, they don't know this stuff, you know. Today, Instagram, TikTok, bam, 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 bam. This, that, da, 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 da. Quick, cut, jump cut. You know what I mean? In the 90s, we had that shit not. You know what I mean? We had our television, we had Al Bundy, we had Will Smith with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and all that stuff, you know. That was our time. So when you were there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And we didn't have a smartphone and this and that. When we got home from school, from work, wherever, you know, or when we didn't go to school, you know. So we watched there the television. That was our big part, you know. The games, we also come to gaming. But first we come to the wrestling part. So take your time, take chips and lean back. Ah, great. That is a funner. Back in the days we had Lipton. Do you remember that? The Lipton iced tea in that cans, that was fantastic. Always on holiday, oh, in Italy, do you get a Lipton iced tea? Here we didn't get it, you know, but there were great. Perhaps you see it on my pullover. We are back today. Sasha Banks, the boss, you know, because of wrestling. So we go into it. Wrestling. I have here a lot of stuff, all the figures. We have VHS for the young kids and boys. Can you imagine what a VHS is? You know, there you put into a player and you can watch it, but we will come to this. So I started wrestling to watch around, I would say 1990, you know. How long is this ago? 1990. I cannot say it exactly, I had not researched it. Now I make this all free now, you know. There is nothing scripted. But I can remember it was around the time when Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan was. The big fight, one of the most legendary ones. When Hulk Hogan once made the body slam to Andre the Giant. Here we have it, the nice one. I also have here a second camera that I can film a little bit other, that we have it better. and I can put it in because you will see what I'm talking about now. So here I have the second camera. So here we are with our nice one, you know. And here we have the lights. You know, this is a lot of stuff. Here we have an audio recorder, but we get a good quality. There's a lot of work. And so with the small figures we will take this here. But now we go on with this camera. So around that time, can you remember back? Were you also a wrestling fan? Tell me that. I don't know. When people are out there, maybe there are new ones here on the channel. When you are a wrestling fan, then tell me, when you got in, did you see someone live? That would interest me for real, you know. So around that time, I was into the WWF. You know, when the WWF went big, you know, the golden era, perhaps you can call it. There I was completely in there. I remember back when the first Raw, you know, Monday Raw was, I think, I cannot say it now exactly, so don't get me wrong when I say something not right, but it was, I think, around 1993 when the first Raw was on television. And that was fantastic. I was in that time, I think the Macho Man was there, Macho Man Randy Savage. And we had it on television. This was a big television. Now we have the flat screen, you know. But back in the days that was such a big, and I don't talk about the screen, how big the screen was. No, when we have it here and we go to the side, how bright the television was. Now we have it this, back then it was really such a big thing. And it was a 4:3 television, not 16:9 like today. And there we had the VHS. We come to this also, but I have to show you because many people don't know what I'm talking about. This is a VHS. And there was the material on that you can watch it. And my so-called granddad always took a empty one. You could buy this empty and you put it into the player. It was a big player, and you can record it from the television. And he recorded it at his home, and was all the Raw series. And I got now the VHS, and I could watch it. You know, I had a lot of empty VHS. These were where you can buy, you know. So that was cool. But the thing is, when you watch those cassettes, a lot of times the quality went wrong, you know. The colors went away. There was really blurry things in, but it was cool. And so I went into that. Oh, here I see it. Coco Beware is on there on this cassette. So I have it also here. Coco Beware. Here you see it with his papagay, with the animal, don't know in English. So yeah, that was fantastic. Always WWF, you know. And later on it was the WCW. So in the 90s when you were there, WWF, very big until 1995, and then WCW conquered the market, and that was crazy. Yeah, what was names there? And I had those figures back in the days as a child, you know. There we played with it. Nowadays people buy it, don't touch it, collect it for 10 years, and then maybe one day it's something worth. But back then we wrestled. You know, I had also the WWF ring. Perhaps you had it also, the blue one. That was a fantastic ring. But I also had the WCW ring. That was also cool because I think there was a cage to be, a cage match. But they are very nice. And then we got the figures. When they came out, here in my small city of Innsbruck, you know, there were not a lot of shops. Toys R Us opened up, I think around, I cannot say exactly, 1991, 92, 93, around that time Toys R Us, the shop, now I think it's Smith's. And there they had the figures in. But also we had a small shop, it was called Heiss, the toy shop Heiss. Now it doesn't exist anymore. That was a traditional shop for I think 60, 70 years, 3 generations I think. And there they had this in, and as a child, you know, we had no internet. There was not to research, what can you buy, can you order it online? That didn't exist. The only choice what you had was go into a shop in your city, and when they have it, they have it, and when they didn't have it, you had no chance to get it, you know, as a child. And that was the time. And when you went into the shop and you immediately watched far away where they had those, you know, they were in a package with a cardone, I don't know, you know, the package. And you see that from 30, 40 meters. Wow, they have now Tatanka. Wow, they have this and that figure new. You know, and that was the crazy shit complete. That was shilling, you know, not euro or dollar. We had shilling. And I think it was 149 shilling. Yeah, or 159. One of that it was, I can't say it really. So I had collected a lot of figures, so we can go into it, because what I see there, Bret the Hitman Hart, yeah, we have Ric Flair, but this is another figure, you know. I have the WCW figures, and the first one what I got was from my grandmother when she came back around 1990, you know, that time around. From Italy, they were on holiday, and in Italy you always get some special things what you didn't get here. And here we never saw figures. I can remember that exactly. You saw it on the Raw series. Yeah, there you saw, wow, they get figures, but this is the USA. You know, we were always here, the USA was that big, because you always say, wow, they have everything. And we don't have that stuff. So the US was always the biggest thing as a child, because everything was possible there that it seemed on television, you know. Nowadays, internet, you can watch more stuff, what is good or not, but back then you always saw the US has everything, you know. And as a child you get that big eyes, because that was fantastic. And then she bought one figure, and I think that was the small Hulk Hogan. You see that in front? I will make this in a big picture. And that was outstanding. There were 4 things in also here. I don't know which one was that. I have to show you. Maybe someone out there can tell me what figure this is. Yeah, what name, what wrestler this was. So, this one. Perhaps you know this wrestler. I don't know this guy. You know, he has a band like Rambo. Yeah. But it was in a package with Hulk Hogan. But that was before 1990, I think. But who was this? I never know who this guy was. You know, this small thing. That was crazy. A package of 4. That was so cool. So we go back. It stands. Yeah. So we go on with the other camera. Yeah, and then I collected other things. Figures, you see, from behind, this was Shawn Michaels, you know, Andre the Giant, again Bret the Hitman Hart. There were different series of the figures, you know. These were really a big part, and the series 1 I had, and then they made the same figure with another color also, like Bret the Hart, and here again. And here, in the middle, if you are into wrestling, you know what I'm talking now. This toy is the 1, 2, 3 kid, you know. Before I tell you what this is worth, a little background story. When I got this figure, I was very upset, because I liked the 1, 2, 3 kid a lot, you know. He was dynamic, he had these kicks and all that stuff, you know, when he went to Razor Ramon and won completely for surprise. And then I got this figure and I thought, wow, this guy can kick and all with the figure. And I really was, the face was not good made, and they had all a movement, you know, and this movement looked so stupid, you know, and I was really upset, but I still have it. And now, in 2024, you know what this is worth? This figure as it stands here, no package, nothing, only this figure is around 800 euro or dollar. 800, 900 or even 1000, $1,000. You know, you can sell this. If you have the package completely in, 2,000-3,000 euro upwards. You know, really crazy, because this was the green series. The green package, there was Ludwig Borger, I think Adam Bomb and the Beverly Brothers. Here, this was also in the green card. I had Ludwig Borger, he's here, was also the green series. And well, do we have the other Beverly Brother also, what I remember, Adam Bomb. I don't know if it was the red one, I think so. Yeah, here Adam Bomb. And where's the other Beverly Brother? I'm watching now, but I was always thinking I have him. So I think I don't have him. Yeah, I don't see him now, yeah, crazy. But Sid Vicious, Razor Ramon, the Ultimate Warrior, the Bushwalkers. I always say the Bushwalkers, but they are called the Bushwreckers also. Typhoon, you know, from that team with Earthquake. Then the Nasty Boys. Did you have a favorite wrestler or a favorite tag team? You know, we come now a little bit wrestling. We come to the film, music and all that stuff also, but take your time. But for the wrestling fans, you will love that now. So when you had a favorite, tell me that, you know. My favorite wrestler of them all, I would say, was Bret the Hitman Hart. And you have seen it in the beginning. And yeah, it was crazy time. Here we have Sting, you know. Sting as a WCW figure, and they were as hard plastic. They had no movement, but they were also great. Sting was also legendary back then in that time, you know, what, that was fantastic. Sting, really great. Scott Steiner also as a WCW figure. The Big Boss Man, Papa Shango, Irwin R. Shyster, the Mountie, Demolition of Doom. You know, where are nowadays the big tag teams? Tag team doesn't exist anymore. You know, when you watch back then, you know, we had all tag teams, one tag team after another. All were great. You know, when I think back, the Head Shrinkers, Demolition of Doom, the Steiner brothers, you know, Scott and Rick Steiner. These were tag teams absolutely fantastic. The Smoking Guns, the Beverly Brothers, or the Beverly, I always say it wrong. The Smoking Guns, not the Beverly Brothers, you know. But, you know, it's so long. Bam Bam Bigelow. But the tag teams, you know, Marty Jannetty, the Rockets with Shawn Michaels. There were so many tag teams, only specialized as a tag team. The Bushwreckers, and that was fantastic. Nowadays you see one single wrestler with others, a small period of time and this and that. You know, but back then tag team wrestling was so cool, you know. And here also we have the Head Shrinkers, Sid Vicious as a WCW figure, Andre the Giant Gonzalez, you know, and the Undertaker, you know, British Bulldog, Hulk Hogan. The Undertaker, I tell you what, I have seen the Undertaker when he was absolutely not popular. If you are not into wrestling, the Undertaker is nowadays around the world, everyone perhaps will tell you that, the biggest name in wrestling who has ever lived. You know, the Undertaker went to the biggest phenom in wrestling history, you know. And the Undertaker back then, around the early 90s, that guy was not the famous one, you know, he was a little bit outside. Paul Bearer, I don't know if he was there at the beginning, but I know a tag team match from back then. That was crazy. It was Hulk Hogan with Sid Vicious. These two together against, I think, Ric Flair and The Undertaker. It was crazy. That was the time. When I'm right now, you know, I tell you, when I say something wrong, it's not bad, you know. But I think that was. And then I can remember when Sid Vicious went to Hulk Hogan. You know, they went against after the tag team or in the middle of the tag team match. But the Undertaker back then, he went up always more and more. You know, when you remember then, was it SummerSlam, I think, when he went against Giant Gonzalez, but the match against Kamala, where he had this, how it's, you know, the wooden thing where he, where he put the people in and closed it. I mean, that was absolutely crazy time. Nowadays you have all clips, Instagram, this, that, and on and on and on. You see so much things, it is not exciting anymore because you get it the whole day. But back then you had only the one day on television, once a week or so. Yeah, when you are from Germany, I'm not from Germany, I'm from Austria, but we have the German-based Swiss, Austria, Germany, and they always had it on Tele 5 and RTL 2. You know, these two television, and it was, I think, Carsten Schäfer, what was, so we go on, the camera was overheating, you know, I don't have money, I only have my GoPros, and they are not perfect to run a long time, so we have to deal with that. But yeah, that was fantastic, you know, so I have to take another iced tea, another Lipton, it's also the Pfanner. Yeah, but when you were in German based, in the television, Carsten Schäfer, the moderation from him, legendary, you know, and Günther Zapp. Perhaps there are guys out there in my age, younger or older, who can remember this. It was outstanding. When you hear those two voices as a kid, you will always remember one word, and I know this was the guy from the television who made the wrestling, you know. That was fantastic, you know, they are really legendary. Legendary moderations, what they did, they inspired so much, you know. Really great, hey. Carsten Schäfer and Günther Zapp. So now you have the Zeitrone, or Zeitrone, I don't know in English, but this is very good. We have time, you know. Lean back, enjoy it now, the 90s dog. We come to Baywatch, Knight Rider, and all that stuff also, you know. A little few more about wrestling, then we go on. Oh, I'm thirsty, very good. Yeah, and so a lot of other wrestlers, Ultimate Warrior. Can you remember the match from... In wrestling we always said match, there was no other fight, it was always the match. The match between this guy and that guy, the match. The match, Ultimate Warrior against Hulk Hogan. It was, I don't know where it was in the US, it was a large dome, it was called a dome, a Loma Dome or something about that, I think. 70 or 80,000 people were in there. Absolutely amazing, I can remember that. That was the Ultimate Warrior at his highest, you know, from the population, I would say. And really that was outstanding. I think they wanted to make the Ultimate Warrior the absolute big thing, but that never happened back then again, you know. But Ultimate Warrior, also this figure, these were the big ones. There you got, I think, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, and one or two others, I think, what were there. This was almost 2 or 3 times more expensive than these figures. I never got one, but then my mom had a friend who had money and I could choose one, and that was unbelievable. With real hair and that big, but when you got it, it was only standing in the somewhere behind you, you know what I mean? When you had it, it was not that cool anymore. These figures, because you could catch and wrestle, you know? We always say catching, not wrestling. Here it was called catching. We are catching, you know, catching. We're not catching, only catching. That was the word for wrestling. So WWF was really on the highest level there, you know. and I can tell you I have seen wrestlers. I will tell you today also what I have experienced in sports. You know, I make videos from sports on YouTube. The people now know me from street ball. I'm the guy who tests the street balls. You know, that is why I'm now known in the world, you know, in the small little world on YouTube. We are very, very small, but they know me for that. But I do more. I have so much hobbies all my life that I don't have enough time. To me, a day would need 50 hours that I can do all stuff what I want. I would like to skate, to play tennis, and to play street ball, to play games, to watch music and on all in one day. That would be perfect to me. You know, to learn, to make videos, to photograph and all that stuff. I don't have the time. One day is too short for me. You know? But yeah, wrestling was a big part. Those cans back in the days, you always had such a can, you know. And then later on the WCW came. I have seen it on television. It was only WWF around 1990 to 1994, around that time. But one or twice I have seen on the other flat where I lived with my mom, there I had seen one time the WCW. And you cannot imagine what time that was, because you had no information about the WCW. Where should I know how good they are? You have known there is another league beside the WWF. You know, now it's called WWE for new people, but back then WWF. And we never knew how good the other league was, because there was no internet. You had no information, nothing. And one day as a kid, because you had to sleep at night, we didn't know on which television that was, you know. There was not, I give in and Google what time, what television it is, you know, what channel. That didn't exist. When you had luck, you had a paper at home, a television paper, where you could watch, on that channel, this runs, this program runs. And so one time I have seen the WCW, and I was very lucky to see that, but I can remember exactly, I was not that impressed. I thought really, the WWF, they would win against the WCW, the guys. Back then you thought in that way. I only knew, and I've seen Big Van Vader. That was the guy back then, you know, the hardcore guy, and the WCW at that time. There he was really good, and so when I would go against the WWF, this would be a dangerous opponent, you know. But we come a few more a little bit later, and yeah, it was amazing. And I have the VHS cassette. And it was so back in the days that the big events, we didn't have much events. Nowadays, 1 month big event, next month big event, next month big event, you know. And you have to pay, you have to pay, you have to pay. Back in the day, it runs on television. We had, when I remember, was it WrestleMania? It was on television. Can you imagine that? That was on television. King of the Ring, that doesn't exist anymore. King of the Ring was great. Then we had the, what was back in the days? WrestleMania, of course. Then King of the Ring, Survivor Series existed. The SummerSlam was also famous. And the Royal Rumble was also there, but I don't know when they entered with Royal Rumble. 1990, 92, 91. Around that time I think the first Royal Rumble was, when I'm right. And yeah, it was great. I always liked that stuff. And the Battle Royale, there was like the Royal Rumble, a little bit the same, but they were all exactly at one time in by the Battle Royale. And yeah, I remember matches from Bret Hart against Jerry the King Lawler, you know, and all that tournaments. Wrestlers, what I liked, I can tell you. Tag team, the Steiner brothers. What a fantastic tag team, you know, Scott and Rick Steiner, amazing. And also this green figure here, this was one of my lovely figures, but it was a WCW figure. Normally I like the WWF figures, but those figures I have to show you with that camera, the green thing, because I have the same as a WWF figure, so I have to get it. I have to be careful that you don't get a domino effect that all falls down. This was it, you know, you see that? Absolutely amazing, but you cannot move it. It was hard plastic with no movement, but with that I played a lot, you know, in the ring. Great figure, one of my lovely figures from all what I have, you know. So yeah, we have to carefully. So yeah, it works. Here we have Scott Steiner with the long hair back then, you know. So we go on with that big, yeah, not the big camera, it's the same camera, the newer model. And I liked a lot the Nasty Boys. Wow, the Nasty Boys were fantastic, you know. Great, and Demolition of Doom. Animal Hawk, here we have it. Yeah, one of my favorite wrestlers back then. Yeah, don't live anymore, you know. Animal Hawk, his tag team partner, all not there anymore. And yeah, what other tag teams I liked? I liked also the Head Shrinkers, but Nasty Boys, and then later on, how were they called? I only know the big one, Mabel. You know, around 93, 94 it was when Mabel entered it with the hip hop, the purple things on. A guy, I don't know how big this guy was, it was so impressive. How many pounds this was, this guy? 400? I don't know. Kilo, 180, 200 kilo, this guy, around 195 or so in height. Oh, that was amazing, you know. Razor Ramon, a single wrestlers. Razor Ramon, fantastic. Lex Luger I also liked much, but the best I would say to me, Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart. But it was crazy. Also the Undertaker, and I liked the British Bulldog. When they made, I think it was the SummerSlam 1992 in London Wembley Arena, the old Wembley Arena. Wow. Perhaps someone was in there. When you watch now, maybe you were in there, tell me that. Wembley Arena 1992 SummerSlam. I can remember that. Bret the Hitman Hart against the British Bulldog. When I'm right, this was the main match. The British Bulldog also was back then such a big name in the game. Awesome, yeah. And Hulk Hogan, I don't need to mention that name, you know. I would say without Hulk Hogan, wrestling would not be there as it is today, you know. Hulk Hogan had so much impact, you know, made the films, you know. Perhaps you know the film, the Hammer, you know, Hulk Hogan, the Hammer. I don't know how they called this film in English. It was not called The Hammer, I think, or was I think called other, but The Hammer with the wrestler. That was amazing, you know, in an old bar they had wrestling match, and they roughed up the toughest guys in there completely. Some were completely over, and one was the best in there. Always one. They had a cage there where a small man was living in. You cannot film this nowadays, you know. There was body shaming and all that stuff, but the 90s, that was all possible. And then this black guy with the set, I think, came in. That was really outstanding. This guy also wrestled them, but I have never seen him wrestle at the WWF, you know. But really cool. Roddy Piper here, you know, so much impact. And here I have a wrestler. This was, I think, the first figure from all what I got. It was a WCW figure, but I never know what wrestler this was, you know. Maybe you will laugh now, but I have no idea who this guy was. Now I have the chance that you see it. This guy, maybe someone can tell me which this guy was. You know, it looked like Apollo from Rocky, you know, maybe it was, but I don't know. Who was this guy? So, I don't know. Help me. Tell me when you know it. So we have, this guy don't stand, you see that? I have to be so careful. This falls. Now it stands, or? That we don't get the domino effect. Yeah, so here we go on. So, other camera. Yeah, Repo Man, Tatanka, Marty Jannetty, Randy Savage. You know, the Macho Man Randy Savage, one of the most icons, popular wrestlers of all time. His voice and how he went in, his charisma, his wrestling, that was outstanding. So now the television went off. I cannot show you now it went on, cannot show you anything. That's also a part when you film. I cannot listen to music now. Normally I would. You will hear some music perhaps when I put it in. I cannot do it now because of the copyright things. I cannot show you something on television because there is copyright. And on and on and on, you know what I mean? So, yeah, and the WCW later on was crazy, you know? In short terms, when Goldberg entered it, oh, that was amazing. When you lived in that time, you know, now you can watch back and listen to this and that, but at that time when you lived there, when you watched, that was around 96, 97, 98 around, that was the time when I went away from WWF because I didn't see it anymore. I don't know why, because I cannot remember why, but I always watched, I think at the weekend on DSF, you know, the German sender DSF, and there was the WCW, and that was always on Saturday night at home. Mom and other friends slept, you know, and I was awake and watched it until the whole night. I don't know how, 1 o'clock in the night, 2 o'clock, and that was crazy. And there I loved the WCW, you know, with Eric Bischoff. They made it so great, but I don't know if I have seen the big events. I think they were not on television when I remember back, but Nitro it was, you know, WCW Nitro, and Goldberg was coming in. A guy where I thought, who is this? The voice when he made to the door and he went out into the arena, that was crazy, and he demolished one after another. You know, nowadays we can watch or listen to people, they say he was not a good wrestler, they had to make it short to overcome all that stuff and all and this and that, you know. But back then you didn't know that, you know. Yeah, later in the late 90s you had internet and a little more stuff, but I didn't have it. And yeah, it was crazy, you know. When that guy entered, you know, he beats everyone. There had no one a chance. And later on, or was it later on, I don't know, when Hulk Hogan was there, the NWO, you know, NWO, so it's called in English. And then only Sting was against. Everyone was there, the 1, 2, 3 kid, I think, Razor Ramon, Kevin Cash, yeah, Diesel back in the days, and Hulk Hogan as the bad boy. And then I can remember one time Sting was coming in, but not that Sting, you know. Of course that Sting, but this was the Stinger from the early 90s. And then the one, what I'm talking about with the black, how it's called in English, the long black hair and the white face, the black hair, the long, with the baseball racket. Right? It's called racket, the baseball thing, you know what I mean. And I remember one day had on NWO, and you thought, no, is he also now there? And then, when I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but then he put away and he beat everyone from the NWO. That I think was crazy when I'm right. He was not one of the members of them. There was so cool stuff, you know, WCW. Very, very awesome, you know. So, we come now to a little bit older and we go back to wrestling a little bit later. It's better that the other people also have something from it.